New Bodman Tales presents The Naked Grandma. Oh, believe me, this is a story, alright? It all begins with me, average bucko Ford Fordman, the guy whose last name's Foreman and first name is Ford. Pleased to meet you, alright? Hope I made an impression, I hope. The story begins in my physics class at New Bodman High. We were learning about free body diagrams and other stuff I'm too stupid to understand. I was sitting with my friends, Diego Gonzalez, who hates his name by the way, and Terry Perez, Jones, Jameson, Jerry Jackson, who has a really long name because his parents thought it was funny for some reason. Somehow, our weird names united us, and we created our own little friend group called the Barbara Gang. Apparently, according to the reliable source known as the internet, Barbara means we are rude. Either way, it just stuck with our group. Anyways, I was just sitting there writing equations that have no meaning to me, and TPJJ asked me, I saw that outside the class. Us three sat near the exit door, and TPJJJJ always sat facing the door. Not having seen what he had seen, obviously. I asked, No, what is it? TPJJJJ looks me dead in the eyes and tells me what he saw. A naked grandma. I was caught off guard, of course. A naked grandma? Well, TPJJJJ asks basically explained further than he needed to. Well, it's really just a naked old woman, but naked grandma sounds catchier, eh? Yes, and what's with that eh? What are you, Canadian? Diego entered the conversation. He was basically a geek, specifically knowing too much about geography and history. Canadians say eh? TPJJJJ shook his head. Whatever. Listen, I saw Grandma, who is naked and running the halls out there. I seen it, I saw it, whatever conjugation is, I saw that lady running. TPJJJJ hurled out. I just stared at him with my mouth just wanting to release a laugh, but the teacher would probably wake up. Did I mention the teacher was sleeping? Nah, I didn't. Anyways, TPJJJJ pointed to the door. Just you wait, Diego and Ford. She'll be running in any moment soon, TPJJJJ said. We waited, staring out that door. It was like 2 or 3 minutes when suddenly us three saw a naked grandma run past the doors of the class. Dear God, it was not a pretty sight. I'll let you fill in with the gaps of what she looked like. Not only was she noticed by us, but some of my classmates had noticed and murmured among themselves about that naked old lady. The teacher still snored while all this was going on. Oh God, you're right, Diego remarked. Instead of laughing, my mouth now wanted to scream in horror. A naked woman is one thing, but a naked old woman? Yeah, we got a problem there. Imagine if that was somebody's grandma, I suggested. I can't imagine someone bearing that cross. Diego and TPJJJJ nodded in agreement. Seriously, has the school noticed I had it on? I don't think so, bud, Diego replied. They'd announce it on the announcements, to announce that naked old lady is in the school. Diego tried to remark with this humor. Nobody laughed, not even a pity laugh. You guys have no taste in humor, Diego moaned. I think you have less humor than that grandma, I replied. TPJJJJ suddenly pointed again at the closed door. Guys, it's the naked grandma. We looked again, and we saw that grandma. This time, she was staring at us three. She just stood there, by the closed door, menacingly. We also got a good look at her parts, and there are some things meant to be unseen. Dio and TPJJJJ and I looked away, and immediately walked to the teacher. We woke his bald butt up in the most convenient way possible, dropping a book on the floor. This got both the entire class' attention and the teacher's attention. Who's happening? The teacher mumbled out. Suddenly, a girl in the class screamed. Oh God! Those who hadn't noticed the grandma until now proceeded to say obscenities at the sight and backed away from where the grandma stared from. What's happening? The teacher said more clearly. Diego stepped up. There's a naked old woman outside the class. What? Was the only word that came out of the teacher's mouth before we heard a little jiggle from the door. Oh, the woman was trying to get into the class. Suddenly, for a moment, there was a silent agreement among the class that one of us would step up and lock the door to prevent that naked old woman from entering the class. One of us had to. TPJJJJ, Terry Perez, Jones, Jameson, Jerry Jackson was the one to lock the door. It was a horrifying fate to come face to face with one naked old lady, one who could potentially be one of the grandmas. Terry Perez, Jones, Jameson, Jerry Jackson walked over to the door, and in a moment the jiggling stopped as the door was fully locked. Terry Perez, Jones, Jameson, Jerry Jackson was forever traumatized by this. for he had to see old woman private part. TPJJJJ fainted. His sacrifice would not be in vain. Meanwhile, another kid scrambled to lock the other door to the class as the old woman moved over to the other side. That poor kid fainted too after locking the door. I'm not going to get paid for this, the physics teacher sighed. But Diego and I took TPJJJ and that other kid's body and put him in the corner furthest away from both doors. What do we do now? I asked Diego. I don't know, he responded. Heck, you don't mean by you don't know. You're the smart one. Everyone in the class now looked at Diego for the answer. Diego sputtered out something, then he pointed his finger up in the air with a light bulb appearing over his head and hollered, Idea! We call the main office. The physics teacher decided that, yeah, that's a good idea. So he called the main office and said that there's a naked old woman trying to break into the classroom. The rest of the class was huddled up in one huge blob of mass at the corner, while Diego and I stood over the probably dead, maybe most not likely dead bodies of two kids who had been in direct eye contact with that woman. All while that same old woman was naked and trying to break into our class. The door handle was fidgeting and moving, and the old lady was not even blinking. Oh God. Oh God. I'm remembering now that she never even blinked. You know what? There's something absurdly wrong here, but hey, it's pretty fun to look back on, even if it was terrifying when we went through it. Suddenly, the announcer came onto the PA system and announced, Everyone, we are now entering a lockdown. There is a woman believed to be violent in the school. Please remain calm and collected. There was no calm and collected. Suddenly, everyone who knew Bodmin High wanted to see for themselves this woman. Word spreads fast, especially with the advent of text messaging, and suddenly everyone knew that this woman was not only violent, but naked and old. The woman just stood at the door as Diego and I heard a bunch of screaming. They kind of sound like, Miss Fenton, what are you doing? Suddenly, it dawned on the whole class who this naked grandma was. It was the IT lady, Miss Fenton. Nobody ever saw her in person, but now we did. Turns out she's kind of gone off the deep end. Call the police! One of the teachers' voices could be heard. That hag is doing something bad, another voice added in some sort of bid for needed commentary. The old naked grandma was clearly doing something bad as she was fiddling with the door handle. At one point, Diego and I thought she'd break the handle. Thankfully, she did not. Metal always beats flesh. At this point, the class had given up hope. They sat on the floor staring at her, waiting for her to break in and wreak havoc in the classroom. Diego and I had too given up. What does that woman want with her classroom? I asked. Diego simply just shrugged. Maybe she got fired and went insane, Diego suggested. I too shrugged. Anything at this point could have been a reason. Her goldfish could have died and she just snapped. But suddenly, Diego and I heard it. TPJJJ must have heard it too, because he awoke from his unconsciousness just to say, Finally, they're here. They arrived. The police. They entered the school and surrounded the hallway to our classroom. One of them went on a loudspeaker and asked ruthlessly, Miss Fenton, put your hands in the air. Miss Fenton did not comply. Miss Fenton, put your hands in the gosh darn air. Miss Fenton simply continued breaking into the door. That's it, one of the cops mumbled. I'm going in. That officer whipped out some handcuffs and tried to put her around her hands, but was an ill-fated move, for she turned around and the officer hesitated. Big mistake. The old woman swiped the handcuffs from his hand and somehow broke them. The officer who tried to handcuff her fainted, and some officers decided to back away from this whole stupid situation. Now, the moment she broke the handcuffs, everyone in the class realized we were screwed. The old naked grandma took the remains of those handcuffs and began chipping away at the door. All the class, even the fainted ones, had faces turned from theirs to this horrifying milky white. I can't even describe it. Like, even the black and tan kids' faces became white. That's how screwed we were. The police decided that just handcuffs weren't enough. They needed tasers now. So one of the old police officers whipped out a taser and lunged at the naked old grandma and tased her back. Unfortunately, it was not enough. Her face contorted into a malicious rage, and she lunged back at the police officer. The rest of the officers knew what to do. They fired their tasers at the lunging grandma. The tasers did what they were built for, and tased the grandma all over her body. Her body contorted and became disjointed. Her face never changed, remaining that malicious rage. When it was over, she laid sprawled on the floor with her face looking up. That day, over 30 members of the police department had seen woman bits, sagging, moldy bits. That day, over 50 people were traumatized by an old woman whose goldfish the day before died. She's in the insane asylum, I think. The court legally ruled that Miss Fenton was legally insane. Psychiatrists made a lot of money in the weeks after, as many of my classmates and those police officers had to see them recover from the incident. To this day, my friend Diego Gonzalez and Terry Perez, Jones Jameson, Jerry Jackson laugh about it to this day. Sometimes TPJJJJ, Diego, and I, whenever we're in physics class, look out the door to see if there's a naked old woman wanting to break into our class one more time.